So first period got annoyed with Holden over the second half. Fourth period loves him more. Embraces him. Grace loves him. See, there we go. Maddie.
I think he's annoying.
I think he's the
Like, I think, what? Yeah, I think he really just, like, desires all attention to be on him at, like, Christmas. And, like, it's so dramatic.
There it is. Over dramatic. Okay. Anything coming like example for you with it?
Whenever he was at Mr. Anthony's house and he, like, got him out of bed and told him, was like, he's a pervert, I'm never going back there again, oh my god, get me out of this man's house. Like,
Okay.
maybe he just looked at holding it as, like, a son. Like, parents, like, pat him on the head.
He's
Like,
not a parent. That's
yeah,
just
but, like,
dude.
while you're sleeping. I don't know, I just think that
Usually we wait to get to this scene, but hey, we're just gonna get there right away.
I was just like, well,
Number one, don't come knocking on my door when you're having a meltdown, Ryan.
Well, yeah.
Number two, don't ever find out where my door is. Be clear. Okay, good. And okay, so you're taking a look at this one as being an overdramatic kind of episode, and in all honesty, and not meaning in the sense that you have to look at it as Holden as being overdramatic throughout the whole entire thing. I do think he is kind of exaggerating what's going on here. Now Ryan's saying, well, this isn't his parent, this is like his former English teacher. There's certainly still some validity to that. And I think for a lot of readers today, it's he's going to his old English teacher's house or
yeah, like
apartment.
that itself is
That's kind of
No,
weird.
he should have done that.
That's-
They kinda had to come in.
I don't want to make it sound like that's normal. Because certainly in today's day and age, it's not. 1950s, not completely out of the blue. And even the fact, that Mr. Anthony mentions had lunch with your father. Especially kind of like in that prep school setting, not completely unusual for something like that to happen. You very well may, come college time, there might be something where a professor has Christmas party or whatever that you end up going to. It certainly could happen. It's not unusual because me and Ryan's going to go there and get patted on the head or anything. I do tend to take kind of the sympathetic view with Mr. Antonini on that one, that sees Holden is in a really tough spot at this point. The kid has essentially passed out because he's sleep deprived over the course of these 3 days. He goes, man, that kid is this is a bad spot. Pats him on the head. Holden wakes up and freaks out. So I do kind of take that one as being overdramatic, although I certainly understand in today's day and age, that's kind of going, that still seems something a little bit, fishy. He is prone to exaggeration too, which is kind of like something that I throw out there with him.
I think that he is overemphasizing it, but there is one part of dialogue that I heard where he said, "Oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm just over here admiring." Admiring. He's patting him on the head, saying he's admiring him, which red flags there.
Yeah, and there is definitely, regardless of where you fall with it, there is nothing definitive that you're ever, I think, going to be able to go there. That's how we know for sure with it. Spelled that one right. Your point about the admiring with the ... I think is definitely well taken. Good observation. It's going to be kind of open to conjecture. It certainly does kind of give the potential for Antolini to still come across as being phony because of everything that's going on. The one thing, I think it's the beginning of the next chapter when Holden's kind of going, I'm paraphrasing it, where, I might have overreacted or I probably did overreact, I think is what I kind of then look at as well, if he's calming down at that point, but no, we certainly don't know for sure, and that's a good observation with it.
I think he's just crazy and insane.
Well, I don't want to fall into stigma of going, okay, he's crazy, he's nuts, he's insane, and let's just kind of leave it at that. Does he have some form of, mental illness that's taking place at this point, yeah, I would say yes. And the one thing to understand with it too is this is something that last week, when we took a look at that first page again as to where is he? Oh, he's in some kind of therapy, setting where you knew it wasn't going to end well for him. And Ryan might be disappointed that he doesn't get all the details that kind of lead him to there. But you know that this is his spiral where before, there's kind of like this downward slope that's taking place. And really, starting probably with the date with Sally, it goes from a slope to a plummet. And it just completely is falling into a tailspin. So
I don't think it helps either about getting the story from his perspective.
Right. And the thing too is, you're with him giving you the story from his perspective, post it actually happening, you get back into that whole reliability issue. And not to take away then, from what Daniel was saying about the quote with Antolini and all that kind of stuff, but with it coming from his perspective, not years later after, but months after it's happened, the details certainly kind of get a little, fuzzy and all of those things with it. One of the main things that I do think that Salinger wants to reinforce, and this is something that we'll probably take a look at more so tomorrow, is the reality of mental illness. Because, not saying that all in 2018, 2019 is when we've become aware of this, but certainly there has been a dramatic shift in the way that we view any kind of mental issues that take place over the last, 50, 60 years. 1948, 1949, this certainly isn't, something that you would be talking about within the school. What do you think about Holden's reading checklist score? Well, because of all the stress he's under, I could see where there could be some issues with it. Let's take a look at a retake and diagnosis and all those things. Those aren't conversations that you're going to be having again at that point. I think we already mentioned this, but keep in mind, the adults, the teachers, the parents, what have they gone through? World War I, World War II, Great Depression. Come on, Stella, pick it up. We dealt with those calamities, so can you. This isn't all that bad. But that viewpoint rightfully has certainly changed over a while. And I would say, that Holden, even though he's not a real person, is a big reason for that, because you start to recognize that, there can be weights and burdens that get placed on a person based from experiences that he or she has, and based on the support network or the lack thereof, that is there with it. Phoebe is a support network for him. After Phoebe, and met Mr. Antolini, maybe to an extent, it gets pretty bare after that. In a lot of ways, that's pretty kind of, I think, tragic for him. What do you think about Phoebe? Grace has a smile. People like Phoebe.
I think I like Holden because I like his relationship with Phoebe.
Okay.
I thought, I don't know, when we first got introduced to her, when he met her at their house, I was worried that she wasn't gonna be what he made her out to be.
Like on that pedestal, yeah.
And I was worried that she wasn't gonna like him as much as he thinks she does. So I was glad that she really did. She was really what he made her out to be.
And in a lot of ways, of the two, she probably comes across as being the more mature, or maybe the more insightful, in some ways. I think, sometimes younger siblings always put the older sibling up on that pedestal, although here it's kind of reversed, inverse happening with it. But, the older sibling's always right, and I want to be just like him. What do you like? I like Allie. Well, that doesn't count. Come on, pick something where she can kind of talk some sense into him. Or at least attempts to talk some sense into him and isn't afraid to do so. And certainly, the whole interaction that's taking place at the carousel by the end is a big thing. The one time, maybe not one time, but certainly an instance when I do get a little worried about Phoebe is when she shows up with the suitcase. Like, all right, let's go. And at that point, he actually does have that moment of maturity where, no, this can't happen this way. You're definitely not coming with me.
out west or anything like that. So I think in a lot of ways she does kind of end up bringing out the best in him. One of the moments where people go, okay, is going to be their conversation that they have in the apartment. Because what do we finally get a reference to that a lot of folks kind of wonder, what's the meaning of this the whole way throughout the course of the book? Why is this thing titled The Catcher in the Rye? What's Holden mean by it?
That's his dream job.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Ryan? I want to be the catcher in the rye. I think dream job's a pretty good actually term for that. What's it mean to be the catcher in the rye?
It's like the dude that it's kind of like pounds anything on the water. So that's kind of like, is that right? Or
What was it? I heard farm.
he kind of like catches them, I guess, if they have animals or something that go out.
Almost.
It's like children running off the cliff.
Gonna catch the kids. And like literally he's like the last line of defense. Tori's laughing at that part, like watching kids jump off cliffs is pretty enjoyable or something. Why you're laughing.
I'm laughing because she's laughing.
That's why Jess is laughing. Okay.
Did you ever dream of catching kids off the cliff? Yeah, maybe.
Maybe a push.
Why does he want to catch the kids? Beyond going, they're going to fall off the cliff, like, going kind of beyond the literal. But what's the whole thing about catching kids?
Well, he talks about there's like no big people around, so he wants to like protect them from growing up.
Okay, so protect is probably the key term to go along with it.
Well, maybe it has something to do with Allie. He feels bad that he's gonna do that for him.
Protect Allie, protect Phoebe, even though she's not quite at that moment yet, but kind of protect her. And then maybe even kind of thinking back, I'm going to write DB on here. Not that I need to catch DB, but maybe DB didn't catch him, catch me. But yeah, when you protect them, the idea that going to probably keep them innocent, want to protect them from adulthood, because that's when all that phoniness issue starts to kind of take place with it. Ryan said dream job, that's what I want to do. But what's also a nice thing about it being a quote-unquote dream job? It's inevitable that you are going to grow up at some point. Yes, the whole idea about protecting, the innocence of people is certainly a noble thing. But there is also this, realization that you can't protect them forever. They have to kind of experience something at some time. And the notion that you're going to be the one that stop them all the time, forever, is pretty much, kind of ludicrous at this point. But he wants to protect them specifically, with going off the cliff from falling. And you think about the conversations that he has with people and the experiences, that falling in a lot of ways certainly pertains to Holden. The conversation that he has with Antolini is Antolini pretty much warns him that you're in line for a great big fall. When he leaves Antolini's and he's crossing the street and he kind of has this big climactic conversation with Allie, Holden feels like he is literally falling, into the street. So in some ways, not only protecting the innocents, but maybe protecting Phoebe from becoming Holden. What's his concern when Phoebe's on the carousel? And this is a part that I don't think always resonates because, it's not 1948, 1949, 1950 anymore. She's on the carousel. Carousels used to have rings on them. Some would have one, some would have multiple. But, little Maddie's on the horse. Young Maddie, sorry, not little Maddie. That's why I said Maddie. What's the horse doing? Going up and down while it's going around, so this isn't good for young Maddie because up and down and spinning, this is very dangerous. They would have rings that would be stationary. So what would a kid do? You go to pull the ring, the bell would ring, and then little young Maddie gets a free ride. So you get to do it again. What happens as young kids, little kids are moving around in circles, going up and down, stretching to pull a ring? They fall. Why don't we have that anymore? Because too many kids fell. Did you say fall? Okay. Alright. Trying to see if I could trap you. Too many kids fell, and then you have lawsuits and all that kind of stuff, kind of starting to happen. But he has this recognition, this realization that, you know what, maybe sometimes you do have to let them fall. Maybe you do have to let them, kind of experience, growing up a little bit. But question earlier, why is he so upset about all the FUs that show up in the bathroom stalls and whatnot in the elementary school? And really, I think that person was trying to get me to write swear words on the smart board. But, well, it's all kind of goes back to that protecting their innocence and whatnot. True story, not made up for the purpose of today's class. I don't remember the book because I don't always pay attention to my daughter. I got enough stuff to worry about. I got you people. Addie's a reader. She's in 6th grade. She's the one who will read through books left and right. And so Mrs. Kane and I will often read some of the books that she is reading or recommend something that she read, give her or whatever. I forget the name of the book, something with feet, but she just read a book. Feet's in there somewhere. I forget. Oh, it's Mrs. Kane. Mrs. Kane started reading the book, and last night she was like, so yeah, that book that Addie really likes, so it's inner city life, and there's a lot of slang and colorful language that's getting used, and there's a murder for the parent of the one character, should we let her be reading this? And my answer was, yeah, she's fine, 6th grade. Better read in the book than experience it. Right? That's why I teach argumentation. I think she was okay with it. But you can't protect it for always. It's not always going to be that Grace and Junie B. Jones and all those things, or Bernstein Bears, or Elephant and Piggy. Great series, love them. Mo Williams, good guy. But there is going to be exposure to things that you can't always protect. And I think that's kind of one of those things where Mrs. Gaines is this something that we expose her to, or is it okay? And that's one of those things that just kind of eventually takes place so that when she gets assigned to capture in the rock, she doesn't freak out about, language that shows up in the bathroom, and all that kind of stuff. But certainly that's the dilemma, that he would be facing. Now the sad thing is, and you got the copy of the poem in front of you, he completely butchers where he gets this from taking a look at the poem. And the irony is the poem has absolutely nothing to do with catching anyone. The poem is a rendezvous of 2 kids that are going to be partaking in mature activity in the field that probably should not be happening. I think that's given to guys and all again. So it's classic Holden that he would kind of mess that up. But yeah, that green is certainly kind of protected. But in some ways, you almost kind of have this falling motif that really develops in that second part that he is spiraling out of control, trying to keep someone else from experiencing the same thing. Oh, you threw the book down.
He's over it.
Okay.
I think you should look at the other one.
Yeah, he.
So, talk more about this tomorrow. Said we'll talk more about this tomorrow.